think, how can we be obedient to God's commands, living in a place like that? How can we be what God wants us to be, reaching out to those who don't know Christ, if we live in a place like that? And secondly, too many people that I have met that would want to live in a place like that, I'll just be real honest with you, I wouldn't want to be around. They remind me of the Pharisees that Jesus speaks about many times in His Word. If you've got a Bible, turn to Luke chapter 13. We're going to talk today a little bit about the narrow door. It says, "And Jesus went through the towns and villages, teaching as He made His way to Jerusalem." Let me stop right there for just a minute. A few chapters back, we were just coming back to the Gospel of Luke, but a few chapters back, there's this one little phrase that says, Jesus set His face toward Jerusalem. And when we read that, it's so easy to just kind of pass over that and go right on and not understand the meaning and what that's really saying to us. When it says that Jesus set His face toward Jerusalem, it is the idea that from that point on in the Gospel of Luke, it is all about Jesus journeying, traveling towards Jerusalem and what He knows awaits Him in Jerusalem. Jesus knows that He's going to go to Jerusalem. He knows that He's going to be persecuted. He knows that He's going to be crucified. He knows all of these things, and yet He has set His face. He is traveling towards Jerusalem. And all through the rest of the Gospel of Luke, it is about His traveling towards Jerusalem. And as He begins to travel towards Jerusalem, His interactions with the Pharisees, with the religious leaders of that day, they become more pointed, more heated. It's almost as if Jesus is kind of poking them, getting ready to pick the fight that He knows is coming. And so He has set His face, and so He's teaching as He makes His way to Jerusalem. It says, someone asked Him, "Lord, are only a few people going to be saved?" He said to them, "Make every effort to enter through the narrow door, because many, I tell you, will try to enter and will not be able to. Once the owner of the house gets up and closes the door, you will stand outside knocking and pleading, 'Sir, open the door for us.' But he will answer, 'I don't know you or where you come from.' Then you will say, 'We ate and drank with you, and you taught in our streets.' But he will reply, 'I don't know you or where you came from. Away from me, all you evildoers.' There will be weeping there and gnashing of teeth when you see Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all the prophets in the kingdom of God, but you yourselves thrown out. People will come from east and west and north and south, and will take their places at the feast in the kingdom of God. Indeed, there are those who are last who will be first, and first who will be last." Jesus in this passage talks about the narrow door. We have to begin to ask ourselves, what is this narrow door? What does it mean? The common belief among the Jews was that all Jews would be saved. If you were a descendant of Abraham, that you would enter the kingdom of God, that you would be part of the Messianic kingdom that was to come. And so the idea was that as long as you were a Jew, you got in. Now there were some groups among the Jews, namely the Essenes, and when we think of the Essenes, typically we think of the group in Qumran, where we have found the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were kind of a separatist breakaway group of Jews. Now their belief was that only a small percentage, a remnant of Israel, would get to enter into the kingdom of heaven, or the Messianic kingdom. Now of course, as all groups of that type, they believed that they were the ones that were going to get in to the kingdom of heaven. And so there were some that believed that only a few Jews. There were some that would teach something along what we would say that enter through the narrow door. But the majority of the Jewish people would believe that if you were Jew, you got in. Simple as that. Jesus teaches something different though. When Jesus speaks here about the narrow door, His words make it clear that when He speaks of that narrow door, that He is talking about Himself. That the only way into that narrow door is through Him. Is through knowing Him and being known by Him. The only way to enter the kingdom is knowing God, knowing Jesus, and being known by Him. He goes on to say that attendance and fellowship is not enough. A table fellowship between people was really almost a sacred experience. It's not like if you were going to a restaurant and you and your wife were going out to eat and you're going to this really nice restaurant and everybody knows about it and it's packed all the time, and you go and the maitre d' asks, how many, you say 2, and they say to you, well, if you don't mind eating with another couple, I can get you in right now, or you've got to wait 4 hours and you can have a table by yourself. Well, and I would look at my wife and go, honey, I love you, we're eating with another couple. We're going in now. Now, if I went in and sat down with another couple that I did not know, and we ate together, it would probably just be that they sat on one side of the table, my wife and I sat on the other side of the table, and we ate, and they ate, and we might share a little bit, but it's not like we're going to get into deep conversation with them. When it talks about sharing a table, eating together, in Jesus' day, it was much more than just sitting at a table and ingesting food. There was an intimacy that was created. There was a bond that was created. And you only had that kind of fellowship with people that you really know and trusted. And so when the people respond to Jesus, when he says, enter the narrow door, and he talks about the owner of the house shutting the door and shutting them out, and they're saying to him, let us in, we ate with you. They're saying, Jesus, we shared a bond. And Jesus says, I don't know you. He is saying that attendance at church is not enough. Fellowshipping with believers is not enough. The only way to enter the kingdom of heaven is to know Jesus and to be known by him. Secondly, he says that not only is attendance and fellowship not enough, that being in the church is not enough, but he says that serving in church is not enough. The rabbis and the Pharisees, to whom Jesus was really speaking here, they worked hard for their religion, but they were dedicated. These were the people that, in our terminology, these were the people that when the church is open, they're there. And they would say, in our terminology, was always there. I was there on Sunday morning. I was so good I came back Sunday night. I was so good not only did I come back Sunday night, but I came back Wednesday night. I mean, I was the holy of the holies. If the doors were open and there was church going on, I was there. And the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, they were serious about their rules. They wanted to make sure that they did not disobey any command of God. So much so that they took what we call the Torah. They took those laws of God. And they said, we want to make sure that we don't break those. And so they would then, around those commands, those laws of God, they built these other laws. They called them a hedge. It was kind of a hedge of protection. And they built that hedge, and then they would say, okay, so God says don't violate the Sabbath. We're not supposed to do any work on the Sabbath. Well, then they would begin to build around this law, don't do work on the Sabbath, keep it holy. They would build all of this protection around it of all of these things that they could and could not do, down to how many steps they could take. Because they didn't want to break that one law. They were serious about following the commands of God. They were righteous. They were pure. They were holy in the way that many of us would think of those terms. The problem was they failed to truly know the God whom they claimed to serve. They would look at God and they would say, all that we have done for you. And they would have an impressive resume. Fasted twice a week. Never broke the Sabbath. Always honored our mother and father. And they would just continue on and on. And they would say to God, all of these things that we did for you. But they didn't truly know God. Serving within the church is important. It is important. But it's never enough. You and I must be followers of Jesus. we must know Him. It's not enough to teach Sunday school. It's not enough to be a deacon. You and I must come to that place where we know God and are known by Him. What does it mean to know God and to be known by Him? You know, I've met people throughout my time as a pastor that knew all about God. I've met people that studied this book and know this book and could teach seminary classes on different books in the Bible. They have such a depth of understanding of God's Word, yet they didn't know God. And I've met other people who don't know hardly anything about this book. But what they do know is that Jesus died for them. That Jesus gave His life so they would be forgiven of their sins. And yes, the ones that truly know that and begin to really know God, they're getting into this book because they recognize that if I want to know Him, I got to know more about Him. And they begin to study. But how many times do we meet people that know all about God, but their life screams that they don't really know Him? That there's no mercy, there's no compassion, there's no love. That there's none of those things that describe somebody that truly knows God. When we come to that place in our life where we can look and say, I truly know God, it's going to show. It's going to be demonstrated in how we interact with people. It's going to be demonstrated even in how we come to church. You see, those that know about God, they come to church expecting to be entertained. They come to church expecting for the pastor to give them this great message that they can go home and they can think about and they can dissect and they can work through and be able to determine whether or not that was a really good theological sermon. They're the kind of people that want to debate theology. But the people that truly know God, they walk into the building expecting to encounter Him. And they walk away and they really don't dissect the pastor's sermon on the aspects of, well, how good was he? Was his presentation up to par? They walk away and they say, what did God say to us today? And they take the message and they begin to apply it to their life because they want to please God. Those that know about God, they might serve in church. They might teach Sunday school. They might be a deacon. They might be one that works in the parking lot. But they do all of those things as an effort to say to God, see how good I am. God, see all that I have done for you. And because I have done all of these things for you, God, then I should earn my entrance into the kingdom of heaven. But those who know God, they come to church and they serve. They serve outside of the church. Not so that God will see them and go, wow, that's good. But they serve to say, God, you have done so much for me. I give you my life as a way to say thank you. Those that truly know God, they serve because they want to say to God, thank you for all that you've done for me. So which category do you fall into? Are you one that looks at your life and says, I know about God? Or do you look at your life and say, I know God? I was told one time that in the Spanish language there are two words for knowing. One is, I know because I know facts. That would be the group of people that say, I know about God. The other is to know by experience. We have to ask ourselves, where do we fall? Do we know God because we have experienced Him? Do we know God because we've seen what He has done in our life? We've seen the change that He's made in our life? Do we know God because as we go throughout our life, as we go throughout our day, we experience His presence and we know that He is with us wherever we go? Or do we just know about God? We know great facts. We know that He is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. We know that He's all-loving. We know that He's all-merciful. We know all of these great facts about God, but it's never seeped into our heart. It's one of the greatest questions that we can ever answer. I believe that there are people that are going to miss heaven by 6 inches. What I mean by that? There are people that have it here, but they don't have it here. I always wonder, we talk about inviting Jesus into our heart. You know, for a long time, that term just didn't really make sense to me. But I thought, well, I kind of want Him in all of my body, right? Well, somebody said to me one time, they said, you know, Graham, when we talk about that, they said, think about what the heart does. Every blood vessel, or every blood vessel in your body, every drop of blood in your body goes through the heart. And as it goes through the heart, if Jesus is truly in our heart, so the idea, the thought is, as the blood goes through the heart, Jesus gets in it. And He goes throughout all the rest of your body. And so if I truly know Jesus in my heart, if I know Him by experience, then not only is Jesus in my heart, but He's in my hands, He's in my mind, He's in my mouth, He's in my feet. He's in every part of me. And if Jesus is in every part of me, then every part of me is going to want to say thank you to Him. Every part of me is going to want to live differently. But if Jesus is just in my head, then there's a possibility He doesn't get anywhere else. It's a fact that I learned about a month ago. You know, as I lay in a hospital bed just about 1 month ago, my brain would tell my legs and my feet to move. And my feet wouldn't move. And all of the knowledge and all of the information that I have about how to make my toes and my feet and my legs move, it was great. I knew how to make my legs work. But as I lay in that hospital bed and would tell my legs to move, the information didn't get there. Interestingly enough, the blood always got to my legs. Where is Jesus in your life? Do you love Him? Do you serve Him? Do you serve Him because you want to say, God, look how much I've done for you. Now let me in the narrow door. Are you one of those that said, Jesus, we ate with you. We saw you teach in our streets. When you taught, Jesus, we weren't one of those back row Baptists. We were sitting down on the front row. We were listening to everything you said. Or are you one that says, Jesus, you're my everything. Jesus, I want to serve you, not so that I can be saved, but I want to serve you because I am. There's some of you this morning that have gone to church all of your life. There are some of you that know this book so well. You've taught Sunday school classes maybe from preschool all the way up to the senior adults. But if you really look at your life, you would say, you know, I don't really know Jesus. I know about Him, but I don't really know Him. In just a minute, we're going to have our time of invitation. And if that's you, if you're the one that says, I know about God, I know about Jesus, but I don't really know, then I want to invite you to come and come to know Him. Come down and talk with me. That's scary. It's scary to stand up in front of a bunch of people that know you. People that maybe you taught in Sunday school. And to stand in front of them, and by coming down that aisle, they know you're saying, I recognize that I know about God, but I don't really know Him. I'm going to invite you to take that step today. Others of you may have thought throughout your life that you knew God. But as you look, you begin to realize that you knew about Him up here, but your heart didn't know Him. I want to ask you to get it right today. Know Him in your heart. Others of you, this may be the first time you've ever heard of this. Maybe the first time you've ever heard really about Jesus much at all. But you just thought the name Jesus was what you said when you hit your hand with a hammer. I'll tell you, the greatest decision you'll ever make is to give your life to Him. It'll change your life. It'll change it for the better. Knowing Jesus gives us purpose. Gives us a reason to live. So I want to invite you today to come to know Jesus. Not know about Him. Not learn a bunch of facts. But to truly know Jesus. Let's pray together. Our Father in heaven, Lord, I pray that we would take that step today to truly know Jesus. Lord, I pray that we would go beyond knowing about Him. That Jesus would become not some knowledge in our head, but would become a reality in our heart and our life. We pray this in His holy and precious name. Amen. If you got your connection card, I encourage you to look at the back. And on the back side of that, I have two challenges. The first is, I have tried to earn salvation by church and serving. I will tell you that I'm the only one that looks at those. If you mark it, I'm not going to be sharing it around. I'm not going to take it to the deacons meeting and say, look at all these people that said they tried to earn it by church and serving. The only reason I want you to mark that is because it's an admission that we've tried to do it ourselves. Sometimes the first step in getting it right is admitting that we did it wrong. That second one is, I want to know Jesus and I want to be known by Him. It's the greatest choice you'll ever make. Let's stand and sing together. Come as God leads.
Above all